I moved out to Arizona when I was about um, in my early 40s, and I
Hmm.
quickly graduated to cochlear implants, which I got in 2005, and then the second one I did in 2009. So that's been my progression with my own hearing loss. I
Right.
stayed in retail. I worked retail for a long time. I left retail about 4 years ago, and now I work from home, soon to return to the office and sometime in the next few months. Um, Working a job where I'm on the phones all the time, where I
Right.
take phone calls
Wow.
and stuff like that,
Hmm.
which I mean, I would have never thought with somebody, I'm profoundly deaf without my processors on. I wouldn't be able to hear anything that's going on in this right now. And yet
Hmm.
I'm able to take phone calls.
Right. Right. And that shows you the journey of how far you've come.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where we empower our listeners to live their best audacious lives ever. I'm totally thrilled that you're here with us, and I really appreciate the fact that you've taken time out of your day to spend it with us. Absolutely, your time is absolutely precious, and really honor that you've chosen to share it here with us as we explore inspiring stories and transformative insights that encourage you to break barriers, embrace challenges, and step boldly into the life you desire. Now, imagine navigating through a dense forest, each tree representing a challenge you encounter. As you move forward, the path can be obscured, making it difficult to see where you're headed. Now, think of self-care, adaptability, and a strong support system as your compass, your map, and your flashlight. They illuminate the way, help you identify obstacles and find solutions. Just as a hiker must periodically stop and check their bearings, those who are on the journey, those of us on the journey who have hearing loss must also take proactive measures. Regular hearing checks and utilizing hearing aids or cochlear implants when needed are essential steps that can help clear the path ahead. Today, we're going to hear from our guest, Maureen Covinsky, who has navigated her own forest of hearing loss and emerged with invaluable lessons about resilience and community. Maureen is an auditory mentor and advocate for those experiencing hearing loss, with a rich background in retail and a personal journey that includes living with hearing loss since childhood. Maureen has dedicated her life to helping others navigate their own unique challenges. She's not only adapted to her circumstances, but has also turned her experiences into a platform to support others on similar journeys. Her passion for emotional well-being and proactive self-care shines through her work, making her a vital voice in the hearing loss community. Maureen's relevancy today's episode lies in her first-hand experience with hearing loss and her proactive approach to managing it. Her journey embodies the essence of living audaciously, showing us the importance of self-advocacy, building a support network, and embracing the tools available to us. So now that we've got the table set, let's turn to our chat with Maureen. Enjoy. Hey, Maureen, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to be here. So thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate having the time with you today.
Yeah, no, this is great. I mean, we hear on this podcast, we spend much time sort of talking and encouraging, individuals to live their best audacious life, and that involves sometimes you're taking a chance or a risk or demonstrating some form of boldness or courageousness. The thing that's important to understand is sort of on this path that we're on, we all have different obstacles or challenges that come our way, and no two challenges are unique or the exact same. There might be some similarities, but it's incumbent on us to, as we're moving through these situations, to keep going, to not quit, and to have that audacity to fight and push forward ahead. And you certainly, through your story with battling hearing loss and what that meant for you and how that impacted your life was significant. And so maybe as a starting point, I'd ask you maybe to tell or share with our audience a little bit about yourself and the journey that's got you to the point that you're at now.
Okay. Well, my name's Maureen. I grew up in northern suburbs of Chicago. just so for some background. And I grew up with a family with hearing loss. My grandfather had hearing loss. I never knew him to be able to hear. My mom also had hearing loss. Noticed it when I was about 7 years old growing up, and it progressively got worse for her. I spent a lot of time in my life growing up because I was the youngest and my brothers were out of the house, when the worst, when it became really hard for my mother
Hmm.
to make phone calls and stuff like that. So I was the one to do that. And I told myself that if hearing loss ever happened to me, I would not ignore the signs. And the problem with hearing loss, sometimes with some people, with my journey, it was very subtle. It was one of those things where one summer you don't even realize you're missing anything.
Right.
So until someone points it out to you. So it's like one summer I was able to hear the crickets and the grasshoppers and the bird that we have, the birds out in my backyard. And then the next summer I didn't, and I just assumed that they went away. I didn't
Mm,
think they were. It wasn't about me not hearing them. It was about them not just being there.
right.
And then during the course of my career, I had and they can't say this now, but they could then. Before we promote you, you need to take care of your hearing, and that was
Mm,
the first time that you know I acknowledged that there was an issue because I called my parents that night. They lived in Arizona where I am now, and I called them crying because I was like, "Oh my God, what am I supposed to do?" And working retail, I couldn't really take Thanksgiving off, but I had a boss that let me have Thursday and Fridays up. That Thursday and Friday off, and then he was gracious enough to give me Saturday off so I could go to the audiologist that my mom had, and
hmm.
that's when I was diagnosed with hearing loss and got my first hearing aids bilateral hearing aids at that time. Um, and then I moved out to Arizona when I was about um, in my early 40s, and I
Hmm.
quickly graduated to cochlear implants, which I got in 2005, and then the second one I did in 2009. So that's been my progression with my own hearing loss. I
Right.
stayed in retail. I worked retail for a long time. I left retail about 4 years ago, and now I work from home. Soon to return to the office, and sometime in the next few months. Um, Working a job where I'm on the phones all the time, where I
Right.
take phone calls
Wow.
and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Which, I mean, I would have never thought with somebody. I'm profoundly deaf without my processors on. I wouldn't be able to hear anything that's going on in this right now, and yet
Hmm.
I'm able to take phone calls.
Right. Right. And that shows you the journey of how far you've come.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations on doing so. Um, I wonder if you could sort of talk about sort of the different ways you saw the impacts of hearing loss in your life early on when it was starting to develop.
I think, well, I've always been a quiet person. I've always been, not uh, liking small group, not going to, I never really went to, I was never a party person. I never went to big parties.
Hmm.
I grew up with parents who liked dinner, small dinner parties and stuff like that. So I noticed that um, I started pulling away from that. I started not wanting to really do that at all. Um, I I loved when texting came because it was much easier for me to do
Right.
texting. I didn't like to make phone calls anymore, even though when I was growing up, I had to make phone calls for my mom. So that's like, a big difference there. Um, having a bird who used to squawk when he heard anybody coming up the stairwell when I was in my condo,
Hmm.
or when my microwave would go off beep, he would start squawking to let me know. So there was,
Okay.
those were those things that, kind of indicated to me that there was an issue that needed to be taken care of. He didn't need to, once I got my cochlear implants, he didn't need to squawk anymore for
Right.
me, but
Right.
he
Oh
still
wow.
did.
Yeah. Yeah. Force of habit, I guess. Right.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, he's a bird. He was a
Right.
bird. He just passed. He was Ziggy. His name was Ziggy. Um, just passed away at the beginning. He was 19 and a half. So
Oh wow.
he was
That's a long
still
time.
very much protected, tried to be protective of
Right.
me, and
Right.
was a very good teacher to my other birds too. So
Oh wow. Oh wow. I would imagine the ability to adapt to a new situation is important, and having that sort of resiliency. So can you talk about just the I guess the importance of adaptability in general, and sort of some of the things that you had to do to adapt?
um um a lot of I became hyper aware. I was always constantly aware of like everything that was going on in the my my realm of being, especially when I was working retail. I was always constantly you know checking to make sure not I wasn't like ignoring a customer
Hmm.
that was trying to talk to me to my back, um which I still have trouble hearing from behind me. So being like that, I don't need to be like that as much anymore, which is I'm very grateful for, because
Right.
it causes what they call listening or auditory fatigue, which I you know had a lot of, not as much anymore, um, when I first lost my hearing, and even when I first got my hearing aids and cochlear implants. Um, so I would end up my day, the end of my day would always be I would be always be exhausted. One of the things I try to do is incorporate a lot more self care for myself,
Hmm.
um, making sure I get enough rest and
Right.
take. I'm really lucky as a hearing. I think one of the things that I'm really lucky about as a hearing impaired person is that I can take my ears off. So if the world is getting too loud or noisy, or I need a break, I can take
Right.
my processors off, and I can cut the sound off, and I can be in complete quiet, which is
Sure.
great. So that's
Sure.
one of being able to recognize when you need those breaks, is really important.
Hmm. What was important for you through that journey as you were adjusting to this new life? What sort of were things that were important to maintain, or maybe even from a self care standpoint?
Well, the self care stuff, building a support team around you. I had two parents. There's had two parents and family, and I have two brothers now who support me and keep me grounded, and will help me when I need help. So um, I think the most important thing for someone with a disability, or even not even just someone with ability, just a disability, just everybody,
Hmm.
having their own support system that
Right.
keeps them going. Um, I think that's the most important thing.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um, I guess from an emotional standpoint, when you look at sort of the impact of hearing loss, that I would imagine that's tremendous. Again, you're especially, it's not something you were born into; it's something that you saw the gradual loss over time. I wonder if you sort of talk about sort of the emotional impact.
Um, I I suffer a lot from overwhelm. As I said, that sometimes a lot of noise can be overwhelming.
Hmm.
Anxiety, because especially when I work retail, even now with my new position, oh my God, I didn't understand that person. Um, what did they say? They're going to think, what are they going to think, that I have to ask them to repeat themselves and stuff like that. So the lots
Hmm.
of anxiety, again, the overwhelm, um, anger. Why was it me? Why couldn't it be my brother or something like that? Why did it have to happen to me? Um, Kind of thing. And those are the ones that come to mind really quickly right now.
Hmm.
Um, I think, as I said, the overwhelm I try to take care of with self care, and taking my ears off when I have to. I think that's a important way to overcome that overwhelm anxiety. Um, I have my team of people that I've grown I've been able to let go of that anxiety and be able to find ways to adapt
Hmm.
that allows me to feel more comfortable when I'm out in the world. And then anger, I think you always have to deal with that anger. It took me a long time
Right.
to be angry, because I don't think I ever um, for the longest time I don't think I ever said why me. It took a long time for me to say why me to me.
Mm.
And I think
Mm.
once I did that, that was also kind of a turning point in terms of growth. Was, when once you say why me, or you once you say that to yourself, then there's a point where you have to move. Well, why not me? So,
Right.
and
Right.
that's one of the reasons. Like in the last couple of years, I've decided that I want to help people like me, that need help emotionally. I just finished writing a workbook
Okay.
on the emotional impacts of hearing loss, and that in that book I can help people walk through whichever emotions, if they're feeling overwhelmed, what do they need in that moment of overwhelm,
Right.
and figure out what those needs are, and then find activities that they're willing to do to create that need.
Got you. Got you. Got you. And so you're an auditory mentor. I wonder if you could explain that, because that certainly wasn't something I was familiar with until I looked at your information. What is an auditory mentor?
Well, really, it started out as I wanted to be a life coach, and then I was thinking, what makes me different? What differentiates me from just an ordinary life coach? And that's the hearing loss side. So,
Hmm.
um, I didn't want to call myself a hearing loss coach. I didn't think that was quite the right um, um, wording for it.
Okay. Yep.
So a mentor came to mind. I like the word mentor, so I had to figure out a uh word that was worked for me. And hearing auditory, so auditory mentor. That's how I came up.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So really life coach, but with for people with hearing loss, or people who are dealing with family members who have hearing loss.
Right. Right. I would imagine a big part of going through the process of hearing loss is acceptance, particularly again when you have you had hearing, you saw it gradually decrease, and now your new reality is something brand new. How do you help people work through that?
How do I help people work through that?
Yeah.
I think, well, that's a good question. As I said, I just started this business, so I haven't had to really work through with other people with it yet.
Hmm.
I think the most important thing to help people with is acceptance of that hearing loss, and finding a way to work through it, and working through what their individual, whether careers or their paths are in life, finding a way for them to find the to adapt, using skills to adapt to their life, like I did, so I can use myself as an example of what how I've adapted, and then be able to reflect back to whatever client I have in front of me, with their individual um, paths and life
Hmm.
experience, how they can adapt to hearing loss in their world.
Right, right, right. And I would imagine there's a lot of work to kind of get to that point, and I think your own personal experiences that you've gone through I can see where that's beneficial to clients, because when you're going through something by yourself, it's really easy to think that no one understands, or no one can relate, or no one has any idea what their journey looks like, but you certainly can, because it's the path that you walk down.
Right. Oh, right. I mean, everyone's hearing loss journey is a little different. I mean,
Hmm.
you know, and you have to remember that everybody's journey is different. I mean, I know like my hearing loss was gradual over time, and
Hmm.
I know people that sneezed and lost their lost hearing in
Gotcha.
one ear.
Right,
So
right, right.
there's really different aspects to that hearing loss journey. Just like everybody's journey is different, hearing loss journey is different for each
Hmm.
person.
Hmm. Uh, um, and I guess because of those different journeys, there are, I guess, different ways that hearing loss can occur. I think so. In your case, you said both of your parents suffered from hearing loss, and so I imagine it's hereditary in some fashion. But there's other ways too. Are there not other ways?
Well, yeah, it was my grandfather and my mother. I mean, there's autotoxic um, drugs out there. You might have like antibiotic. There's some certain antibiotics, not all. There are certain antibiotics taken taken over a length of time that could cause an issue. There's autoimmune diseases that can, like Meniere's disease, that can cause hearing loss as well. So there's right now. Sorry, I know there's others, and they're not
Sure.
coming to mind at the moment, but those are the big ones. Genetics, exposures to loud noises can, constant exposure to loud noises, hearing headphones, in the ear
Yep.
headphones, listening to loud music.
Right.
Um, I mean, those can all be can may in some cases people may not get hearing loss, but they can cause hearing loss. Um, because I don't want to say it's all the time, but there's certain is that exposure to loud noises, and I can't think of any others right now.
Sure. No,
So
that's fine. That's
we'll leave
fine.
it there.
No, no problem, no problem. No, no, this has been great, Maureen. I really appreciate you sharing your story in the way you have. Is there, if you wanted to sort of leave individuals with a message or important insight that you wanted them to know with respect to hearing loss, or even the journey of hearing loss, what would that be?
Um, I think it's just finding, get an audiologist, get your hearing checked. And I think it's important to be proactive before you lose, because for some people, hearing loss is very subtle. So
Hmm.
there's a there. So I believe in having your hearing checked the same way you go for yearly physicals.
Yep.
Um, Making sure you get, if your audiologist says you need hearing aids, make sure you get them and you wear them, because the first few weeks, it's going to be uncomfortable,
Right.
um, because you're going to be hearing noises and sounds that you haven't heard for a while. So
Right.
need to get yourself past that and use your hearing aids. Um, and if you do get to the point where you need cochlear implants, I'm a shining example about how my life has changed with cochlear implants. I have a job now where I spend over 90% of my day on the phone taking calls.
Yeah.
I'm not
Mhm.
able to see them like I see you right now.
Yep.
So, I don't see their lips or anything. So I do make mistakes, or I don't always, I shouldn't say mistakes. Um, I don't, I always repeat what they say to me to make sure I hear
Right.
everything right.
Hmm.
Um, so just being proactive, making sure your hearing gets checked, and then also the support system. I want to say that last, because the support system is so important, that you
Yeah.
have your people supporting you, and giving you the encouragement when you need it, and
Amazing.
when you're feeling down and out, someone to listen to you and stuff like that. So the those are I think the most important takeaways.
Got you. Got you. Well, that's awesome. I really appreciate Maureen, you being here to share your story and with the manner in which you have. I think people will certainly appreciate. Again, I talked earlier about when you're going through this challenge or struggle, not knowing what it's like, and you're doing it for the first time. To have someone who can offer their experiences to help you, I think is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So, certain congratulations for you doing that. Congratulations on your journey. Thank you for sharing it, and thank you for being here today on the Audacious Living podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. This was fun. It was fun talking to you today.
Yeah, great. It's great. Hey, listen, for our listeners, if they wanted to connect with you directly or learn more, where can we send them?
I have a Facebook that's here to hear you, which is HEAR, the number 2, HEAR, and the letter U.
Okay.
They can also get me at I have an email address, which is Maureen at heretohearyou.com. So they certainly can get me there. I do have a webinar. I'm not sure when you're going to be posting this, but I do have a webinar coming up on November 13th at 4 p.m. Eastern time, called the Hearing Loss Toolbox: Navigating the Holidays. So that I have coming up. So hopefully,
we'll get this out beforehand. We'll make sure this gets out before.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And they can find the sign up for that at webinarbymaureen.com, the WEBINARATMAUREEN .com. Sorry.
Gotcha. Amazing. Well, and we'll also make sure that those details will be in the show notes, and the webinar will make sure that's connected, and I will ensure that this is released before, so it gives people an opportunity. So thank you again for this. Maureen, all the best.
Thank you so much. You too. You have a good rest of your day.
You too. Back we are here on the podcast, and much thanks and appreciation goes out to Maureen for being here. During our conversation, she shared profound insights about the emotional landscape of hearing loss. She emphasized that it's essential to recognize the signs early and to seek help without hesitation. The importance of building a solid support system cannot be overstated. It acts as our safety net, lifting us when we feel overwhelmed. We talked about the empowerment that comes from being proactive, whether that means getting regular hearing checks or fully utilizing the technology available to us like hearing aids or cochlear implants. The journey may be challenging, but Maureen's story reminds us of the strength and resilience we possess when we choose to embrace our circumstances with courage and adaptability. I encourage you to connect with Maureen directly. You can reach out to her through her Facebook page, Here to Hear, or through her email, which we'll provide as well. It's important to note that additionally, she's hosting an upcoming webinar on November 13th titled The Brain Loss Toolbox: Navigating the Holidays. And it really promises to be a valuable resource for anyone looking to manage the emotional impacts of hearing loss during the holiday season. Be sure to check out Maureen's workbook on the emotional impacts of hearing loss, designed to help individuals navigate their feelings and find constructive ways to cope. It really is a fantastic resource tool for those in the hearing loss community. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Audacious Living Podcast. Thank Maureen as well for being here. It was great to have her. Remember, embracing your journey with audacity means recognizing your strength and taking action towards the life you want. If you found value in today's conversation, I'd encourage you to take a moment to like, follow, subscribe, or share if you haven't already done so, because that's how we grow this podcast and reach even more audacious living. Until next time, keep pushing forward and live boldly. Stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.